All right, I'm in focus. I'm in focus. I'm in focus. I'm in business, baby. Hi, my name's Joel. I'm 36 years old and I have stage 3 colon cancer. Now, I'm creating this video and it is quite awkward for me to, in all honesty, to create a vlog, which is something I never thought I'd ever do. I actually used to make fun of my wife for watching vlogs all the time, and I could never quite understand why she kept watching other people's lives. But the other thing I never thought would have is cancer. And on top of that, colon cancer and stage 3 colon cancer. So I was talking to a few friends and my wife, and I thought it may be a good idea to kind of share my journey and my experience as I go through this process with other people who maybe have recently diagnosed with cancer, and specifically kind of younger people with cancer. And the reason I say younger is because a lot of the resources that they give you when you are first diagnosed are kind of related to older generations. And this is an example of the first book I got when I was first diagnosed with colon cancer. It's also called rectal cancer here, obviously. And I actually got diagnosed first in the UK. So this is the UK book. And the information in the book is actually really good and it's really easy to digest, no pun intended. It's not like in medical language or anything. It's easy to digest language. But you'll see on the front, there's a picture of a person. And this was a common theme with a lot of the resources I got. Even though she looks very friendly in the photo, it's more for mature people. So I was hoping to create a resource for more younger people. And the information in here, and they don't quite know why people get rectal cancer or colon cancer, but they talk about things like it's most common in people over 70, for people who eat a diet high in processed meats or red meats, who don't do physical activity, who are overweight, who smoke. And I can tell you, I don't consider myself any of those things. I actually consider myself, I am still, I feel, a very active and healthy 36-year-old. So I wanted to create a resource, as mentioned, and kind of give you an idea of like what my story looked like and tell you about my symptoms. So as mentioned, I was diagnosed actually in London, UK. And my symptoms in my specific case was that I had a bit of blood in the stool. And it is slightly awkward to talk about feces and so forth on camera and share that around the world, but it's for medical reasons, so you lose all kind of dignity with nurses and doctors and all the things that you have to go through. So I'm just going to put it out there. So kind of going back to the symptoms. So I had a bit of blood in the stool, and sometimes they ask, is it fresh blood, is it dark blood, and so forth. And I had a bit of both. So this is around April 2019, so earlier this year. And so I had a bit of blood mixed in with the stool itself, so with the feces, and then I had a bit in the bowl. And the other thing is that it lasted longer than a week. And so I thought, I should probably go get this checked out. I didn't have any pain or anything like that. I've actually never really had any pain as a symptom. So I went to the GP, I spoke to her. This is all through the NHS, which was really great. And she was like, it's most likely this thing called hemorrhoids or piles. And I was like, ooh, hemorrhoids. Ooh, I've heard of that before and I don't think that's pretty. And reflecting back on it, to be honest, I wish it was just hemorrhoids, eh? But anyway, so she did an inspection, which I wasn't expecting. My wife said I made noises she'd never heard of during that time. But the thing was that she couldn't find any piles or hemorrhoids. So she was like, look, let's just be safe. Better be safe than sorry. I want you to go get a colonoscopy. So I was like, sure. I followed the doctor's advice. So a few weeks later, this is in May now, I booked myself in and had a colonoscopy. And for this colonoscopy, I was actually conscious. They didn't knock me out. I've had another colonoscopy since then where they knocked me out, and I recommend getting knocked out for colonoscopies. That's probably self-explanatory why. But for women viewers, I do kind of know what it's like to give childbirth to an extent. I'd say 1/10 of what it's like to give childbirth. I feel like I have experience in that now. Not that I ever wanted to know what that was like. But when I went to the hospital for the colonoscopy, the doctor came over prior the operation and was like, oh, look, Joel, it's most likely this thing called polyps. And I'd never heard of polyps before, but look, 99% of the time it's a thing called polyps. If we find any during this colonoscopy, we just cut them out and it's very minimal and away you go. So I was like, okay, great, sounds great. And so I had the colonoscopy. And when you have had the colonoscopy, they then take you to an outpatient area. And so I was waiting in the outpatient area and I got changed, went to the bathroom. And after you've had the colonoscopy, there's no pain or anything. When they blow you up like a balloon, you don't feel like any of that once it's all finished in the outpatient area. And I was waiting around and I saw other people come in and go out. So I asked the nurse, oh, can I leave? And they're like, oh no, the doctor just wants to talk to you about your results. And I was like, okay, that's, I guess, the normal process in these cases. I had no experience, obviously, with colonoscopies. So I then saw the doctor about 15 minutes later, and he had two nurses with him, and they came over, and they're like, oh, how are you going? And I was like, oh, I'm going well, how are you? And they're like, oh, we just want to talk to you about your results. And I was like, okay. And so I thought in my mind, oh, well, let's see if this is serious. And I was like, oh, should I get my wife? I asked them. And they're like, oh, you should get your wife. And when they said that, I knew something wasn't right, because if it was just kind of normal stuff, they would have just kind of told me. So I went and got my wife, Becky, and then they took us into this outpatient kind of private office area. And I remember everything about that very much in detail. I think once they told me I could get my wife, I think my brain was like very much locked on. And so they took us into the room. My wife was next to me and they had the doctor and the two nurses in front. It was a very claustrophobic room, to be honest. It was tiny, could only fit that amount of people in there. And then they didn't tell me I had cancer. They positioned it to me like this. They're like, oh, Joel, we just want to talk to you about your results. We want to let you know that we found something unexpected there, which is quite advanced for someone your age. And I kind of didn't know what to say, but I was like, oh, could it possibly be cancer? And they were like, yes, it's most likely cancer. We took a biopsy and we will get results as well. So when someone says or kind of doesn't directly say that you have cancer, the first thought that I had, I wanted to see how serious this was. I was like, oh, is it terminal? And then the doctor goes, yes, yes, yes. And in that 1.5 seconds that the doctor said that, that's when a lot of things ran through my mind. And kind of funny, but like the first thing that ran through my mind was this meme, and I was like, boy, that escalated quickly.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
But then 1.5 seconds later, the actual nurses were like, oh, no, not terminal. And then the doctor's like, oh, you said terminal? No, not terminal. And I was like, that was a bit of a sigh of relief in this kind of crazy moment. By that stage, my wife had started to get quite emotional and start crying, and the rest of the meeting, in all honesty, was a bit of a blur. I remember they handed me this booklet at that stage, but I don't remember much else, to be honest. You kind of go inward, and I don't even remember having any specific thoughts at that stage in that meeting, but they spoke for another 5 minutes and then they let us go. And the first thing I did was call my mum in Sydney. At that time, I believe it was about midnight, and I woke up my mum, and nothing, you don't ever want to, your mum never wants that call, right? I'm the youngest and got bloody colon cancer. Anyway, so I called her and kind of told her what was going on, and the rest, as they say, is history. And when I say history, I probably don't mean it's history because it's all very fresh right now. And I'm now filming this back in Sydney, Australia. We had a choice to either do it in the UK, like the entire treatment plan in the UK, or to do it in Australia. Becky and I were actually thinking of moving back to Australia. I hadn't signed a letter of offer, so we decided to do the entire treatment in Australia because my family's here, and we were kind of already 1 foot in the door, is that the saying? On moving to Australia, just basically moved our timeline from in 3 months to in 2 weeks. So I'm hoping in future videos that I get to show you more of this process, as it's very fresh. I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I'm hoping for a happy ending, eh? I honestly don't know what's going to happen, but I want to give you some insights, right? So I want to give, maybe you've just been diagnosed, I want to give you insights into what this process will look like and the ups and downs in it, and maybe show you what radiation is, so and tell you more specifics about my cancer and how I'm going to have chemo radiation and what that looks like, and what does a radiation machine look like, what does chemo look like, what are the symptoms of chemo, and things like that, and just give you kind of what this journey is going to look like. So it is the first video I've ever created for a vlog. I did create an old video for work, which I was never happy with. So maybe this is me being able to redeem myself to be a bit more better on camera. I don't know. Anyway, it will be the first of a few videos. So I do want to thank you, one, for joining and watching this video. And I hope to see you again soon. And cheers. Thank you.